The last board meeting at Harrison Global ended exactly how they planned, with my humiliation. I sat at the massive mahogany table, watching my family members raise their hands one by one, voting to remove me from my own grandfather's company. The motion to remove Elizabeth Harrison from the board of directors passes unanimously, my Uncle Marcus announced, not even trying to hide his satisfaction. Effective immediately. I kept my face neutral, though my hands trembled beneath the table. At 28, I was too young to understand real business, according to them. Never mind that I had an MBA from Wharton. Never mind that I quadrupled the profits in my division. Never mind that Grandpa had specifically trained me to take over before he died. Elizabeth, my father's voice cut through my thoughts. Please gather your things from the executive office. Security will escort you out. Security, like I was some kind of threat. Of course, I replied smoothly, standing up. Though you might want to look at the Q3 projections before making any major decisions. The market's shifting. My cousin James snorted. The market's fine. You're just trying to scare us because you lost. Lost, if only they knew what was coming. I gathered my belongings under the watchful eye of Mike, our head of security, who had known me since I was a child. He looked uncomfortable with his assignment. I'm sorry, Miss Elizabeth, he muttered as we walked to the elevator. This isn't right. I smiled, patting his arm. Don't worry about it, Mike. Everything happens for a reason. The evening air felt crisp as I stepped out of Harrison Global's gleaming headquarters. Behind me, 30 floors of glass and steel reached into the Chicago skyline, a monument to my grandfather's vision. Alexander Harrison had built this company from nothing, turning a small manufacturing business into a global empire. And now his son and nephews thought they knew better than his chosen successor. My phone buzzed, a text from my cousin Patricia. That's what you get for playing with the big boys. Stick to charity work. I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding. Patricia had always been jealous that Grandpa had chosen me to mentor, not her. Now she was probably celebrating with the others, thinking they finally put me in my place. The drive home to my lakeshore apartment gave me time to reflect on how we'd gotten here. It had started 3 months ago when I presented my analysis of the coming market changes. Manufacturing is shifting, I'd explained to the board. We need to adapt, invest in new technologies, or we'll be left behind. Uncle Marcus had laughed. The same way we've manufactured for 30 years works fine. You've been reading too many trendy business blogs. Our competitors are already adapting, I'd argued. If we don't move now. Enough, my father had interrupted. This company ran perfectly well before you came along with your modern ideas. Some of us have actual experience. Experience. That's what they call doing the same thing year after year, ignoring the changing world around them. To them, innovation was a threat, not an opportunity. In my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. A new email waited from David Chen, my old friend from business school. Everything's in place. The shares have been acquired through the shell companies. You now control 51% of Harrison Global. They won't know what hit them on Monday. I smiled, remembering the day I first called David with my plan. He thought I was crazy at first. You want to secretly buy control of your family's company? He'd asked. That would take millions. Good thing Grandpa left me millions then, I'd replied. Alexander Harrison might have seemed traditional to outsiders, but he'd been quietly revolutionary. While training me to take over the company, he'd also set up a private trust in my name, one my family knew nothing about. They'll try to push you out someday, he told me during one of our late-night strategy sessions. The old guard always fears new ideas. That's why I've made sure you'll have the resources to fight back. I opened a secure folder on my laptop, the one containing all the documentation of my careful share acquisitions over the past 3 months. Every time my family shot down one of my proposals, I bought more stock through various shell companies. Every time they belittled my ideas in meetings, I'd acquired another chunk of shares. They thought removing me from the board would silence me. Instead, it had freed me to make my final moves without scrutiny. My phone buzzed again. Another email from David. Legal team confirms everything's ready for Monday's shareholders meeting. Your proxy documents are ironclad. Perfect timing. Monday was the annual shareholders meeting, where my family would smugly present their vision for the company's future. The same vision they'd had for the past 30 years, but they were in for a surprise. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Angela Wong, my former assistant, holding a box of files. "They don't know I took these," she said, stepping inside. "But I thought you should have copies of all your market research. The analysis about the manufacturing changes, you were right." I took the box, touched by her loyalty. "Thank you, Angela. But aren't you worried about your job?" She straightened her shoulders. "Mr. Harrison, your grandfather, once told me to always back the person with vision, not just the person with power. You have vision." After she left, I spent hours reviewing the files. Every projection I'd made 3 months ago was proving accurate. Our competitors were indeed shifting to new manufacturing technologies. The market was changing exactly as I predicted. Another text buzzed through. "Uncle Marcus this time. Hope you've learned your lesson about respect. Maybe now you'll understand how business really works." I laughed out loud. "Oh, Uncle Marcus, Monday would teach you all about how business really works." My phone lit up with a calendar reminder. Dinner with Marie, my grandfather's former secretary. She'd insisted on meeting tonight, saying she had something important to share. 2 hours later, I sat across from Marie at Gibson's Steakhouse, her favorite restaurant. At 72, she was still sharp as ever, her eyes missing nothing. "I knew this day would come," she said, pulling an envelope from her purse. "Your grandfather left this with me, said to give it to you when the board turned against you." Inside the envelope was a single sheet of paper, a letter in my grandfather's bold handwriting. "My dearest Elizabeth, if you're reading this, then they've done exactly what I feared. Tried to push you out because they fear change. But remember what I taught you. True business leadership isn't about maintaining the status quo. It's about seeing the future and having the courage to chase it. I've left you the resources to fight back. Use them wisely. Show them that youth and vision are assets, not liabilities. And remember, the best revenge isn't just winning. It's winning while proving you were right all along. All my love, Grandpa." Marie watched me read the letter, a knowing smile on her face. "He always said you were the only one who inherited his vision. The others? They inherited his name, but not his spirit." I tucked the letter carefully into my bag, feeling more certain than ever about my plan. "They think business is about power," I said. "About controlling others." Marie nodded. "And what do you think it's about?" "Innovation, adaptation, building something that lasts." I smiled. "And on Monday, I'll show them the difference." Back home, I reviewed everything one final time. The proxy documents, the share certificates, the market analysis proving I'd been right. My father called twice, probably to rub in my humiliation. But I let it go to voicemail. Let them all think they'd won. Let them celebrate their victory over the naive granddaughter who dared to challenge their outdated ideas. Because on Monday, everything would change. I opened my grandfather's letter again, drawing strength from his words. He'd seen this coming, had prepared me for it, had made sure I'd have the means to protect his true legacy. Monday couldn't come soon enough. Monday morning dawned bright and clear over Chicago's financial district. I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one she'd worn to every major business meeting. Today felt right to continue that tradition. The shareholders' meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. in Harrison Global's main conference center. I arrived at 8:30, nodding to Mike at security, who looked surprised to see me. "Miss Elizabeth? The meeting is shareholders only." I smiled, handing him my credentials. "Don't worry, Mike. I'm exactly where I need to be." The conference room was already filling up with shareholders, board members, and executives. My father and uncles clustered near the front, looking smug in their expensive suits. Cousin Patricia sat with her usual group of sycophants, probably sharing another round of jokes at my expense. David Chen met me at the door, laptop ready. "Everything's set," he whispered. "The proxy documents are loaded. Want to review them one last time?" I shook my head. "I've been reviewing them for 3 months. It's time to act." Uncle Marcus spotted me first. His face darkened as he strode over. "This is a private meeting, for shareholders." "I know," I replied calmly. "That's why I'm here." Before he could respond, my father joined us. "Elizabeth, this is embarrassing. Security will escort you out." "Actually," David stepped forward, "Ms. Harrison has every right to be here. As a major shareholder." The room fell silent. I could feel every eye turn toward us. "What nonsense is this?" Uncle Marcus demanded. You don't own any significant shares. We've tracked all major shareholders. I smiled. Did you track Phoenix Ventures, or Global Innovation Partners, or perhaps New Horizon Investments? My father's face paled. Those were the shell companies I used to acquire shares over the past 3 months. Impossible, he whispered. Those acquisitions would have required millions. Good thing Grandpa believed in planning ahead. I cut him off. Now shall we begin the meeting? I believe there are some changes to discuss. The next hour was a blur of legal documents, proxy revelations, and growing shock as my family realized exactly what had happened. Through careful planning and strategic acquisitions, I now controlled 51% of Harrison Global's shares. This is a trick, Patricia shouted, her composure cracking. She's too young to manage this much power. Too young? I stepped to the podium, pulling up my market analysis from 3 months ago. Let's talk about who really understands this business. One by one, I showed them how every prediction I'd made had come true. Our competitors' shift to new manufacturing technologies, the changing market dynamics, the dropping profits in our traditional sectors. While you were busy dismissing me as too young, I continued, our main competitor launched this. I played a video announcement from our biggest rival, showcasing exactly the kind of innovation I pushed for. Their stock price has doubled since this launch. My father stood up. You can't just walk in here and... Actually, I can. As majority shareholder, I'm calling for an immediate board vote. I nodded to David, who distributed the prepared documents. The first item, reconstituting the board of directors. The next few minutes were chaos as my family realized they'd lost control. The new board would include experienced industry innovators, technical experts, and yes, me as chairwoman. This is betrayal, Uncle Marcus sputtered. Your grandfather would never. My grandfather, I cut in sharply, left me his shares in a secret trust for exactly this moment. He knew you would try to maintain the status quo at any cost, even if it meant destroying his legacy. I pulled out Grandpa's letter, reading it aloud. True business leadership isn't about maintaining the status quo. It's about seeing the future and having the courage to chase it. The room fell silent. You all thought being young meant being naive, I continued. You never wondered why Grandpa spent so much time teaching me, preparing me. He saw what you couldn't, that the business world is changing. We either change with it, or we die. I clicked to the next slide, my comprehensive plan for modernizing Harrison Global. New manufacturing technologies, sustainable practices, innovation centers, everything I tried to propose 3 months ago. You can either be part of this transformation, I offered, or you can step aside. But Harrison Global will move forward. One by one, the old board members realized their position was untenable. My controlling share meant the vote was a formality. By noon, Harrison Global had a new board of directors and a new direction. As the shell-shocked shareholders filed out, Patricia stopped by my seat. How long? She demanded. How long have you been planning this? I met her eyes calmly. Since the day you all started dismissing every new idea as youthful inexperience. Sometimes, Patricia, being underestimated is the greatest advantage. The next few weeks were intense. Some family members resigned rather than work under my leadership. Others, seeing the wisdom in my plans, chose to adapt. My father struggled with the change but eventually admitted that maybe, just maybe, his daughter knew what she was doing. 3 months later, we launched our first major innovation initiative. The stock price jumped 30% in a week. 6 months after that, our modernized manufacturing process was outperforming all competitors. I sat in my grandfather's old office, my office now, looking at a photo of him from the day he'd founded the company. He'd been younger than me when he started, full of ideas that others had called impossible. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Angela, now my chief of staff. The new board reports are ready, she said. And you'll want to see this. She handed me a financial magazine. The cover story? Harrison Global. How new leadership revolutionized a traditional company. My phone buzzed. A message from Uncle Marcus. You were right. About the market changes. About everything. I was too proud to see it. I smiled, touching my grandmother's pearls. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right so thoroughly that they have no choice but to acknowledge it. Another knock, this time David Chen. Ready for the innovation team meeting? They're excited to present the new proposals. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Lead the way. As we walked to the conference room, I passed the portrait wall, now updated to include all the company's innovators, not just the Harrison men. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind. The best revenge isn't just winning. It's winning while proving you were right all along. Looking at the eager faces of our innovation team, at the modernized facilities visible through the windows, at the future we were building, I knew he'd been right. They kicked me off the board for being too young to understand business. I'd come back as majority shareholder to show them what real business leadership looked like. And now Harrison Global wasn't just surviving, it was leading the future of manufacturing. Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest gift, because when people dismiss you, they never see you coming. Until it's too late. The end-of-year shareholders meeting painted a clear picture. Our stock price had doubled. Our innovations were setting industry standards. And those who had once dismissed me as too young to understand business, they were now taking notes on my vision for the future. Because in the end, true success isn't about age or tradition. It's about seeing what others can't, having the courage to chase it, and being strong enough to prove everyone wrong. Even if that means taking over the company to do it.